I'm going to use one of the ones that we created for our cars application. Okay, and with that, all right, so I just want to create a new project. And I'm going to back up because I know we did this the other day, but I want to make sure I'm getting the right stuff. Bless you. And I'm going to create a Forms app. And this is going to be my data grid with selection. We'll try that. So I hope you saw the announcements yesterday. Your videos didn't really get you all the way to where that assignment wanted things. So I know people did some different creative things to get there. I'll show you what it wanted because I think it's just really valuable for you to know, but definitely not going to count against you in any way. Now I want to start with my data source. So I have my data sources tab here available. It's collapsed automatically. But remember, if you can't find it, it's under your view menu, under other windows, up at the top, we have data sources. We want to add a new data source, and it's going to be a database and a data set. And then I'm going to go ahead and click New Connection to recreate that connection string. Remember, we want Microsoft SQL Server. Can you find my list of servers? Nothing. So I'll go find it in our first connectivity. And then we want SQL Server authentication. We're going to put in our username. Now I'm going to have to remember what I made that. And then see if I can get to a database. Now we want our own database. And of course we can test connection. My connection I know has already succeeded because I got that list of database names. So I know that everything is good. So I'll click OK. And then I'm going to include sensitive data in my connection string, which I wouldn't want to do in the real world. And I'll save it. Okay. Now it's going out there and it's checking on my data. Now, when we created our tables for our inventory app, there were a couple of things I think we would need to go back and check on if we're going to do any of the stuff in this next chapter. But for now, I guess I'll just grab, let's see, I think inventory was the cars, right? Because we had some actual data there. And I'll click finish. Now, some people were asking about what would happen if you selected more than one table. And if there's a relationship in the database, then that relationship will be acknowledged. And depending on how you choose your setup here, you could have a master detail type situation where it lists, like, you know, customers and all the cars they bought or something like that. We decided that we wanted a data grid view, and then we drag this table out onto our form. Now, one of the requirements of the assignment said to dock it, so I'm going to dock it. This actual data doesn't really need to be docked, does it? Because it's not really big enough to take up that whole area, but that's okay. That's what the requirements were. So then my data grid should be working, right? I can click start and I should have data. and have all my stuff. So we want to focus on this toolbar. And what I want to add is like a text box here to select things. Oh, let's say we'll select by make, you think, because we have like a lot of Volkswagens and stuff. So if we look at our toolbar up here, when we click on it, notice down in this container area that inventory binding navigator is what gets selected. That's what that toolbar is named. So it is considered our navigator. I mentioned that the other day when we created this really quickly, that it's what allows us to navigate through all of the records in our table and add and delete, things like that. So that's why it's referred to as the navigator. Now, just like any other toolbar, when we click on it, we get the option to add additional items to it. So let's add a text box.
Oh, right here.
Thank you. Okay, so we added our text box. Let's give it a name. Now, in our text box, we could name it like tool strip text box, but let's just name it text box, TXT BX make, because that's what we're going to use that for. And then let's go down and make our tooltip say something helpful. So in our tooltip text, let's say something like enter make for selection or something like that. And then we want to have a little button beside it so that they can type in the make and then click the button to do the search and just limit which ones we get. So let's add a button. I'm going to go ahead and add a separator, and I'm going to move it over to before my text box, maybe. There we go. Okay, so now I've got my text box and my button. In our button, we'll just make it ETN, bless you, ETN search, bless you. Now, it would be nice if we could find a better image, better picture for that. If you go to the image property, and click your ellipses. We want to import into our resource file. And I want to go out to the S drive and look at that CIS folder. I think it was like the CIS150 folder that has all those icons. Let's see. Icons.
I don't appear to have a 150 folder.
Oh, okay. Let's check. I might need to copy it.
You probably do because
I do, but I bet I need to copy it.
We have 151.
Do we have it?
Yeah, we have 151.
Okay, so icons are in there. Awesome. So I'm just going to find some sort of search icon or something.
I think I'm just going to leave it be.
Oh, that's good.
Oh, yeah, they just are not looking.
Yeah, they look good. That looks good. So whenever somebody is using the app, we want them to just be able to type in a make here and click that search icon, and then we want to limit the list to things that match that make. So we need to issue a select statement that says select inventory where make equal txt box make.text, right? So we could do that in a string manually if we were using just CRUD SQL, right? The standard stuff. But since we've got this data grid here now, what do? That's one of the problems of using all the dynamic stuff, right? Because then it's all hidden from you. So we've got to go find it. So over here in our Solution Explorer, scroll down until you find your data set. So I'm looking here, it's Riley RE data set. Down here in my container area, I also see my Riley RE data set. So either place is fine. I want to click on that data set. And then I'm looking for the designer. Whoops, is that true? I lied. Let me close out of this. I just found it so easy last time. Oh, there it was. Duh. Just double click on your data set. Now, when you double click on your data set, it brings you into this data grid selection tool. And we see all of the queries that are associated with our application so far. So right now it says that we have a fill query that allows us to get data. Let's find that in our code. If we go back to our form and look at our code, we see right here in our form load that we do our inventory table adapter dot fill. That's running that fill query that we just looked at in our data set.
So this dot fill method basically just translates to telling the server select everything and hand it back to me.
We can actually look at the SQL code that's in there.
That's what we're getting.
So yeah, whenever we're looking at, let's go see that in our inventory table adapter. There's a lot of ways to look at it, but if you click on that line, you'll see the properties for it, and you can actually see the command text here in our property. I'm going to try to arrange that nicely.
I noticed that when I clicked on it, there was a bit of ellipses and it opened a bit of a window. That might make it a little easier to see. Or it makes it easier to see. So we might
Right, there's lots of ways that you can look at it. I'm not seeing that.
So the SQL for it is, it says select car ID, make, color, pet name from inventory. Okay.
Yeah, so if I click on it once, I'm seeing it that way. We can right click. Let's see if we can, and what we're going to do is add a query, but I want to see this one first. So let's choose configure, which is kind of like edit the one that's already there. And then you can see the select statement. Now, when you start working with the data grid, it's really easy at first to just slap that data onto the form. But then when you get down into the tools, it can get kind of confusing because there are so many of them and so many different ways to do things. But this configuration wizard here is just the final SQL statement. If we want to, we can use the query builder to build that SQL statement. The query builder shows us our table, and it shows us all sorts of different options we have for the different columns in our table, whether we want to sort them, all sorts of different things. Okay, so we can do all sorts of amazing things with the query builder. Let's cancel out of this one and let's add a new query. We're going to make this query be the one that runs when somebody clicks our button. Let me see if I can do it right. Let's see, we want it to be a select statement. Making sure I get it right here, but I still might have to falter. So let's right click and create a new one. Add a query. And we want this to be a select statement. We want to return rows. It says type your select statement or use the query builder to construct it. What data should be loaded into the table? Well, this select statement is good because it's already got all of our columns in it in our correct from clause. We just need to add the where. So we would say where make equal
Equals what?
That's what I gotta find. We want it to be a parameter. It says a parameterized query can be used. So it seems like in their example, they're so mean they put in stuff already.
I use these things on my board, and I just put where it equals, and then in quotes, the name of the values.
Should we put our, can we put our text box name? I don't know if we can. Let's try it. I don't think so.
Like we can't just put the text box directly in there. Yeah, it has to be done text.
Yeah, but I don't think that's gonna work. Let's try a query builder. Okay, so it kept that in my filter area. So now if I click execute query, I'm probably gonna get some error. Yeah, it says text box text is could not be found. So what I really want here is an @ sign. And I might have to find an old one and come back to us after we, okay, so that one query ran with the @ sign, but it returned nothing, of course, because we don't have any null car IDs, but it does know that it wants to be a parameter. So let's click OK and finish. And now we have a new query here that says fill by. Let's change that a little bit. Configure. I would like it to say fill by make, but I don't see any place where I can do that. over here in our properties. Our method data is get data by, so let's make it be get data by make. And our fill method name, fill by make. Now I'm going to go back to the form. Since we've created our query, although it needs revision, can come in and double click our button to create our event procedure. And we just want to do the same thing. This dot inventory table adapter dot. Now we want to find our fill by make. And then the parameter that we're going to send to it is our data set.
But hold on. We still need to tell it what make we want to.
Yeah, so we still have a problem with our parameter. So we're going to come back and update that, but let's run and make sure that everything's working up to this point so that I can locate that and get back to you guys without taking your time. Oh, it says it's already open. Did I leave it open in the testing environment? I must have. There it is. So I've got to close out of that data set. I didn't get associated with my right event procedure. What did I do wrong here? I've got to, my button is not right. How's yours? Is it the same?
Mine's open.
Yours is open. My button is whacked out.
I didn't think we added anything to the button.
Hmm?
I didn't know we added stuff to the button.
Yeah, I want to add an event procedure to it.
I mean, we did add the event procedure, it just doesn't really do anything useful yet.
Right.
Because we have that fill by make method, but we still haven't told it how to tell what we actually want to search for. So it's just running that query where you know, select everything from inventory, where make equals what.
Yeah, my button just went crazy. It's
It
gone.
doesn't have anything in there, so
There
that
it is
query
now.
doesn't do anything yet.
My button
Whereas
decided to.
otherwise working
My
fine.
button decided to come back. So let me move this code where it belongs. Yeah, so let's see if I can at least get it to run. Okay, so our theory is we should be able to type in our make and then click our search button and have it just bring up whatever we typed in here. So I'll get with you guys on that parameter and we'll update this so that we can have that selection work. While I'm doing that, would you get together with your groups and talk about how you would like to summarize today? I want each group to be really quick so that we can look at this cool stuff that we can do with this newest database stuff. So try to keep your group meeting to about 5 minutes. So, or whenever we're presenting.
We're going to show off our
Yes.
our previous project.
So get together, decide what you're proud of and how you figured it out when you didn't have as much resources as you needed, and what you need and what you're comfortable with. And I'll find this thing.
Because I'm pretty sure there's something in here that says, you know, automatically. I know there is for the headers. I think, yeah, it's like a totally different process. So it's here, it's how it matches.
And I turned the word wrap off on my headers. And I turned the word wrap off on my headers, so that really helps. You don't know what you call the parameters. Sure, yeah. Big C. Yeah. Sure, you get your auto assign. It cuts off.
Oh, mine is.
Yours does.
Yeah.
I will not have the search to know
That's what we're doing right now.
like a low update. What I'm trying to do right now is like translate like all that and make this thing. Yeah, all of data sources. Yes, we could. Google help me. Wow. Is it always supposed to be like it's just
So I gotta be
So I guess yours.
Okay, let me show you the last few couple pieces of magic to make it work, and then we'll get on with our presentations real quick. So in our code, I guess we should look at the query first. In our query, so remember to get there, double click on your data set. Then we want to look at our fill by make configure. And we want to say where make equal @ something. I made it say make. And that will be the name of our parameter. Now when I click finish on that, and it saves the query, now we have a parameter here for this method. So we can go to our code, and in our code add that additional parameter. So after the specification of our data set, just put comma in our text box name for where our parameter data value is. Let's try it. Now I'm going to try my Volkswagen, and then we get our selection.
Is this safe from SQL injection?
Do what?
Is this safe from SQL injection?
Pretty much is just like anything else, you know, is if you put a stored procedure in there, then you would be, but if you don't, you're not. So.
If you wanted to be absolutely sure, in that same event listener where it checks that, you could have it check the text box to see if it has anything that looks like bits of SQL in it.
Mm-hmm.
Or just do MySQL actual string or something like that, string actual something like that. There's a line you can put in front of anything that like strips those, it catches any SQL, some like keywords that will reject it. And then you can also strip, if you worry about like JavaScript tags, so you can strip tags as well.
So there's definitely options if you're feeling paranoid. Yes, and be paranoid about that.
Yes, get worried. Okay, so that's it for this, for our data grid. Yeah, make sure it's working. It's you can see this is why it's a never-ending battle in the field, is to, you know, should you always be using the old stuff, or should you use new stuff, or what should you do? Should you use things that are really fast but then hide a lot from you behind the scenes? What's better? It's always a never-ending discussion, so that's fun. this way you can tell by using the data grid. If you'd already created the database, you could have, you know, some sort of junior programmer come along and create a lot of your interfaces for you. And then you would be there to help them if they had problems. So, you know, you have to think about the good things and the bad things with any way of doing stuff. So everybody got it working? Think about how you could add that to your family selection if you had been able to. I'm going to close out of it and leave it to you guys. Okay, I'm just going to leave it logged on up here, and you guys can remote whatever you like.
Are we going into order? This thing, I don't know how to get my double table back. Oh, like it doesn't say indies, it just says like 13.
Give it a second until it will I don't know why, but mine did that 10 years ago. Okay, let's see a beautiful group. Let me take group up there. Group two.
Is that us? I think that's us.
Right, you?
So let group 2 go second. We're about to have the text box.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I was just saying.
Okay,
We're having some technical difficulties, please stand by.
let's stand by.
No pressure.
No promises either.
Well, we're waiting for Tyler.
Oh, done with me.
I mean, I guess another group wants to go. Let's be honest, I don't think Tyler's going to pay attention. Tyler didn't make this up.
Only some of us are working. Alright. I'll just preserve it.
No, no, you're fine, we'll wait.
I don't think it's about to happen.
We'll help you with that.
Do you know what a chain? No, mine's not chessboard. I did it once, and I don't remember how. Did you figure out how to change the column colors? I know what it's supposed to. Oh, there it is. Never really. I guess you like that sort of. I was going for trying to change the style. Selection back.
Set up, but everything else is fine.
Try one resume dollar sign. Yeah.
I can send it to you.
Yeah, it's actually very simple.
It definitely feels like she should do this correctly. She just follows. This is ahead of. Because I don't have to. I can't get to this. The database. Can't tell it. Yeah. I'm just gonna tell I know it.
What's responsible about?
It's not really much of a game. It's too much mind shot. Yeah. Well, it doesn't matter. Mine works. Yours works. It should be others. It's only after you press update, it's not you button and so you have to do it all together. Oh no, my phone. It makes sense. That's why he was probably. Yeah, it's not worth it. Should be taking everyone's pages over 5 minutes. This one should take pages over 5. And type out just taking pages off. No, because age is this variable. And that's only on the still on the develop that is controls it. And when it's a fully run I'm not going to find that for
Chat, I did this.
Did they go to Belgium?
No, we're still figuring it out, I think.
Like add one. So it's two requests.
Yeah.
So I'm not down to it for me stuff. But I think if I did that, just swap it with these lines. We'd be in.
Okay, so that's what you're doing.
Wait, you just want me to share it?
Yeah. Let's see what's going on. Yours looks really good anyway. Let's see what you did in the first place.
It just, I think it'd be possible to do it. It's just I didn't follow your videos that closely.
No, I didn't. The video wasn't. You did great.
So like how I connected, if I connected doing the view where I could get like this stuff, because this way I'm getting, I can't use your way of this. So when I try to put like text like a variable in here, it's spitting me an error. But like this way, I'm searching through my type of relationships just for brothers, which I only have one. And then this, I'm resetting it
No, that's really good.
with this code back down here, which is the same way I loaded it on load. And then I have another one that does it by the hometown. But I feel like it should be, hometown is just this variable right here. Why can't I get that out of a text box this way? If you get what I'm saying. I could? Because I did like string hometown and then assign that string to like that. And then I try to put hometown in right here. But I'm going to get an error. That's what I was just trying to get. But if I do it your way and like load the database up and whatnot the way you just did it today, I think it'd be possible because you're
Yeah,
very
right
aware.
here where you are, what's your text box name for that select statement where you have your hometown?
I just leave it by default, whatever it is.
Okay. Just grab it. So just say equal and then get you do the curly braces and put
Body contact. Wouldn't it be like that? Yeah, that's what I had.
Now, hometown is a variable though, so your neckline can't be part of your string unless you put the curly braces around it. So put the curly braces around hometown.
Can I do it like that?
Yeah, that'll work too good. Not really, because,
Not as well.
yeah.
It's kind of sloppy to do it that way. And we make
Did
the
you-
whole,
So you,
Line is a string indexes.
Yeah, hometown.
the select one string.
somewhere like that.
Yeah, or you could use the, the dollar sign in the front and put the home, word hometown inside the curly braces. The dollar sign has to go before your double quote begin. That's my favorite.
So like that should work.
Uh-huh.
It doesn't like that column name.
So you have to have that hometown within double quote or in single quote for SQL. So put a single quote around.
Well, there we go.
So
Thank you.
notice using that string. Bring that up, Tyler, for everybody, because whenever you're formatting that equal string, you have to be really careful because same as SQL itself would require the quotes around that string and the select statement. You will have to supply those quotes. So, yeah. And so when we do that embedded one, it does that for us.
Yeah, I use it a lot better than my plus signs and whatnot.
That's really good. They're really good there. Getting that to work.
I think it's bad. My biggest takeaway is this dollar sign thing. I like that.
It's important. We all love it very much, and that's why we were going to beat it into your head.
Yeah.
Live stream circulation.
I tried to do like changing the button names and whatnot because I didn't like those, but I started confusing myself. So I deleted it and went back.
No, it was really, really good. Everybody take a look at it and see how he did it, because he's just got the actual select statements in there and totally controlling it, which I guess we would call the you know.
If I could hypothesize a little bit for a moment. A moment ago when you were lecturing, you showed us how to make the text boxes search by name. Could it be possible to do something similar to this, where instead of typing into a text box, it does a query that gets whatever all the different categories might be and makes a drop-down menu based on those?
Sure.
It would be something like get distinct this category, whatever you want to search by.
Mhm. Yeah, you would have a lot of different ways you could do that.
And that way you don't have to try and search for the right ones. It's just, here's the things we happen to have names for. And so pull up all the ones that happen to actually have them.
Yeah.
And so you could kind of, it could kind of let you search dynamically without having to just guess it.
Mhm. Okay, so how's your group doing? Who's your group? Where was that?
We all had finished products. Everyone got something. We just didn't really.
I think that's great, yeah. Any worries? Everybody's feeling good, that's good, okay.
I'm actually not feeling good about something. I have a much tougher question.
What's that?
I don't remember which people I'm in a group with.
Oh, okay.
You go to the university, go to the studies, you will find it.
How dare you give me the obvious solution?
He doesn't want to hear that.
No, they don't.
You were with those people.
Yeah.
Those people. Next, we have these people over here. Study group 3. Oh, my God, in here. Do I need to drop them?
He was here Wednesday.
I didn't remember when I was saying, oh,
He's been here the past few Mondays.
fine. I keep missing it. Okay, group 3 without Colton. You've got Michael and David. That's good. What do you guys want to tell us about student application? It's awesome. What did you get done?
I know, and search.
We just added it. So
Right.
So I could share my name.
My daughter, when she was taking her master's program, she went online to OSU. And one semester she had a teacher that they never heard from for the first 9 weeks of the semester. She knew from the last semester that the teacher was going to have some sort of brain surgery or something, because she figured they would have an alternate teacher if the teacher was out for months. But no, she just didn't hear anything. They used Moodle, which is kind of like our thing, you know, in high school. But anyway, about 8 weeks into the semester, just a few weeks before it was over, all of a sudden the whole course dropped on Moodle. And all of the assignments that should have been due like the first 6 or 8 weeks still had those original due dates. They were all already late by 6 or 8 weeks or however many weeks it was. And my daughter, like everybody else in the class, figured, oh, dang, we're screwed. They should have told somebody, but they didn't. They were all just as happy as she was that she didn't have any work to do for this class. So she didn't tell anybody. Nobody told anybody. But that teacher just acted like none of that had ever happened. But yeah, all that stuff was due. It was all late. I won't do that, okay? I remember. I was sick. You guys didn't know how to do the selection. I won't try it against you, okay? So if I start having brain trouble and don't remember that,
That's me to retire.
I would do that. What you got up here? Ooh, beautiful.
It's basically, that's what I tried to add to the last thing that was just he made sort of. But yeah, I have put the colors and causing and other stuff in terms of the way I do different fonts or try to put different fonts in the code and have column, every column has 3 colors, something like that. And the focus of that is just whatever. I just put it whenever it's an even odd. Whenever the column is odd, make the color change. And then on my form mode, it's just like this. Although when you change the fonts and colors, you have to set this enable header visual styles as false, as if not it will not change the colors and stuff. So have that.
Good to know. Do you think something similar might be true for some of the other different spots on it?
For some, I researched it. It's only the colors. I don't know about the others. But
Not that way, but all right.
on the column grid, it works without anything that you have to set it as false or true.
Huh.
But only on the header, the enable header styles, you have to set it as false.
It's
I
kind
don't
of
know
odd that,
why, but
yeah, it is kind of odd that Microsoft would decide to make the distinctions there, but not anywhere else. It's a mystery.
you can also set the rows to this really easy. I think everyone tried it. Here, you just change this as rows.
Nice.
The guy right here, I don't know his name. He did it as row, so I did that minus column. So yeah, that's pretty much it. That's pretty much it.
Okay, so you got any concerns?
If you wouldn't mind bringing your table up again briefly, sorry.
My wife.
The form.
Oh,
Because I noticed that there's a row missing. There isn't a FAMID number 2.
oh, I followed the video. I deleted that row.
Oh, okay.
See if it really works.
And of course, SQL did what it's designed to do and doesn't reuse that ID at any point.
It probably can, because it will delete.
And she's shaking her head no, so I think maybe it doesn't.
Okay.
Not unless you drop and recreate that
Oh, I
table.
see.
You'd have to start over from scratch,
I
which is
didn't know that.
annoying.
Can you like actually inject the ID though with the row since the ID doesn't exist? Set a row to that manually create it. You have to know the ID though before you do it.
I think a better way to ask that question is, does SQL let you redefine a thing's primary key? Can you say, I want this one's primary key to be this number instead?
Yeah, I know I did that with some. What is the override now when you did that? Do you remember? To be able to enter those primary keys instead of letting the server generate them.
Oh, yeah. It could conceivably run into problems if something else already has that primary key. So you have to be pretty careful doing that.
You cannot use the ID too.
It doesn't like that?
No, it generates as 10, not 2.
So we can't do it here at any rate. You'd probably have to go into the server manager and do it a little more directly.
Maybe.
And even then, it may or may not. Probably not a great idea anyways. I just wondered about that. Didn't need to go on quite that long of a tangent about it.
It's a good question. So I didn't know that. So.
I just noticed, like, wait a minute, there should be a 2 there.
Okay, good. If you guys are feeling good about everything, thank you for. Taylor is on for at least, it sounds like next week, so he'll be in touch prefer, but if you have anything to get a hold of them about, like we're trying to get the email.
I'm trying to add the search to mine right now.
Okay.
I guess I could presentate what I had, what I got done.
Presentate is a word now.
Presentate it. I like
I love it. You said presentate.
Is that not?
It would just be present.
Mm-mm.
But no, I like presentate better. That's a better word for that.
Okay, I'm gonna presentate.
Welcome to English. We can make any word mean anything.
If I can actually get this thing going.
Since you was just talking about like you missed it too, how come your invitation link is Mr. Silent instead of Miss Riley for Zoom? OTC dot. Mine says Mr. Silent on like the Zoom call.
I think that's this is right. No.
If not, how did mine get backwards?
Oh, he's missing that water.
It's like
I don't know why.
It could also be interpreted as Mrs. IP.
Mr. Silent.
Whoa, whoa.
It's crazy, just the flip of one letter changes your whole identity.
It does.
You see it.
And I didn't even see it back here. Okay, here.
So, yeah,
Where it's coming from, somewhere it's wrong.
I'll just presentate what I got done last night, and I haven't,
Cool. Let's see.
I haven't really added anything like what we did today. Yeah, I mean, it's pretty basic, but it works in the most basic way. It loads, and it's really ugly in my opinion, but I'm gonna find a better color palette in time, so it's the best we have. And I didn't know this, but apparently you can even, I mean, order this by each of them if you want to. But no, I don't have the search function or any of that. I didn't quite figure out how to get that done. You can also change whatever you want here.
Very nice.
And it should stay there. Yeah. So wait, let me. Okay, I thought something looked weird for a second. So the only thing I kind of, well, I had help from figuring this out, but when I was starting this, the cities were kind of smudged together like that. I didn't quite like it, so you can easily fix that. It's by like manually increasing the column size by going to data grid view .columns and going to whatever column you want .width and just increasing the size manually. I'm not sure if there is like an auto size function. If there is, please tell me. Oh, there is. Yeah.
When are you ready?
When you oh, okay. Yeah, that's basically it for me.
Was that first thing red on purpose? You just didn't choose color.
Oh yeah, I did. It's when we
Someone has
Really?
I think that.
I gotta search for it.
Oh, good. Let's see.
All right, so the way I did my search is I got all my SQL stuff basically the same exact way as the third video. And instead of like the third video, use a button to load it in. I just did it on my form load. And down here, I have a button. I didn't rename it for the time constraints, but it takes the text in the text box that's in the same way Tyler did it, but then it just recalls the form load, and it just changed what the SQL statement is equal to, because I have it declared up here. It's in the default one. So I typed in, and I did it by last name, search last name, and I put in a reset button to go back to the fold. And of course, it updates and everything correctly. The one thing that took me way too long to realize, I was sitting there for forever, it seemed, doing this. I'm changing one thing, and then one update, and then I'm not updating. If you, for whatever reason on my app, if your cursor is still active in any of the boxes, it will not update. If you click out of it.
Oh, no. Because of things you're still trying
Yeah.
to edit it.
Yeah.
Because you're
I found another Seth.
Taking care of you. All right, that's good. Okay. Let's take a minute and look at some of that. We'll move that. Thank you, guys.
And search for it.
Yeah.
Yeah. We just want to do big.
click on the two and do it. Comb. You just scroll down. There's an auto size.
Okay, what I wanted to show you was Entity Framework 6. And this is chapter 22 in our book. Let me share here. Great, huh? I used your colors. Such colors here. Okay, so Entity Framework 6, chapter 22, and it takes, like the data grid took us from having to connect to the server, issue our SQL command, read out the results, took care of all of that for us, right? All we had to do is create a data source. Entity Framework takes it further. So this is where this lies. Here's our database. Here's ADO.NET providers like the SQL command, all the different classes that we're using. Entity Framework sits on top of that. So it will actually issue the SQL statements for you, kind of like what we're working with right now. It's just newer. Now, this is called the Object Reference Model Interface, and that's how your application connects to Entity Framework. So we're going to try to connect to it really quick and see if we even can. So Entity Framework lets you interact with your relational database's data, uses an object model, maps directly to your business objects. That means it's dependent on your classes, your class code. Whenever we're working with Entity Framework, it operates on entities. So it's going to consider, like a car in our model, an entity instead of an object. So kind of taking it a level above an object. Now, when we're working with entities, Link is aware of entities. So we can do link queries, which again, you'll be learning a little bit more about. And our actual SQL code will be generated for link queries. So it replaces an older tool called Link to SQL, if you run across that. Now it has some important components, and a lot of them are things that are kind of taken care of for you. So you have to really be thinking about what's going on here. the database first approach is what we used just a few minutes ago, right? We set up our data source with our tables, and then we drag that into our application using Entity Framework, even though we didn't really know about it too much. And then we were able to access all of our information. Well, when we go to the code first approach, which is the new recommended approach, we're looking at classes instead of tables. So instead of looking at the car class, we'll be looking at this car entity, the entire domain of the car. Where does it live? So when we use the keyword domain in this kind of term, we're meaning its world, its universe. Where all can this entity be? That's what we'll be bringing into Entity Framework, which will give us, in the end, access to all of our tables. So when we're working with entities, we can think about them just as classes. But one thing that our textbook says over and over is strongly typed. We have strongly typed classes. In my picture here, those are chains that are strongly typing that class together. Kind of hard to tell, that's why I told you. But you can tell in our class we have 3 fields, and each of those fields has a specific data type. That's why it's strongly typed. It's not like Python or some sort of language that will just figure out what data type is going on. It's strongly typed in our classes, right? So when we look at our database should be a reflection of our business. That's why they say it maps to our business domain. If our company has customers, our database is probably going to have a customer table. If our company only has partners, we're probably going to have a partners table and not a customers table. So it's dependent upon our business. All of this is used to build our entity data model. Our entity data model, our EDM, is going to be our client-side implementation, and it's going to be mapped to a database by Entity Framework. We don't have to map it directly to a database schema. We can just say that all of these things are involved in our business. Okay, so if we're going to use Entity Framework, some situations might require us to do an install. This one shows SQLite requiring that. Let's try it. Let's do a new project. And in our textbook, they say, let's do a console app. Let me get to the right spot here. They want it to be auto lock console app. Then they want us to add a new folder to the project. Okay, guys, I'm not going to make it.
Everyone press F.
Walk out of here, feel better. Remember, you guys, I'm reacting really bad, so don't bring mammal in here. If you have a sandwich or something, please don't bring it in here. Leave it with the secretary down there, because I'm having really bad trouble right now. So if you, Axe is a real problem for me. Any sort of Axe, cologne, it's real mammal based. So if you see me back away from you, it's because I'm going to hurl and I don't want to hurl on you. Yes? No, coffee doesn't. It's stuff like, it should be more meat thing. Now Starbucks, one of those foam, whipped cream, all mammally stuff sitting right in front of me would after a while. But not so bad as Axe. My son came home last weekend, and I don't know if that's what set off a lot of it, because he's a real Axe person. I was like, dude. And he said, I'm not wearing any of it. Ugh, I hate that stuff. It's so funny how your kids do things that you can't stand. Okay, so I want to make a new folder. Soon as I get out of here, it's better. I think it's the air does whatever makes it better. Okay, we're going to name this EF for Entity Framework. And in our folder, we want to add a new item. New item. And this item is going to be data over here. And we want an ADO.NET entity data model. Do you see that? I think we need to install something, huh? Let's try it. Let's go. Tools, extensions, and updates. Actually, I think it's that other option that we couldn't use before. Tools, get tools and features. Yeah. We weren't able to do that before. Let's update. Hopefully it will be quick. Do what? Update. Uh-huh. I will have one of the others put it in since they've decided you're not worthy. I still don't know why. Austin, can you log in for him? It's just mean.
Seems suspiciously like we're not here.
Hey, on this screen, what stuff on this is useful? I always like just click everything off.
Do you?
Yeah.
Well, it depends on what you want, because like,
It's where he uses account and install that.
it still won't. It did. It just doesn't like you. I know. They're picking on him. It says all of that stuff is installed. It says up here all our entity framework stuff is installed. So darn, I'll have to make a video for you. I was hoping we could just fly through it and take a quick look. But it looks like it's going to be a little bit more involved than that. I was hoping it wouldn't be.
So in the first section, in the first extension, okay, if you go here and search bar, can you search on that and install just the one that you want that?
I think you're on that other one.
If that one's not the same with the okay. The extension, okay.
Yeah.
You have to search.
The extensions are different. Yeah, because that's just like extra stuff and things that third parties have created and things like that. While we're there, if you want to, though, we can search for the color-coded brackets. We could install, we might need to install 2019 is what I'm worried about. So don't do that right now, because I might have to get that for the entity framework stuff. But let me close the Visual Studio installer. If you updated the installer, good job. We're more prepared. Let's go to Tools again and Extensions and Updates. And click Online. And then online, we searched for color-coded brackets. We could try any of them. I don't see the one we used last time.
Maybe you got taken down.
Maybe so. Oh, we have lots of tools. It was like via something. There it is, via Sphora, if you like that one. But you could try any of them. I'm going to go ahead and download it and install because I keep meaning to. All right. Well, you guys are out of here. Good job. And let me know what kind of questions popped up this week. You're supposed to do the full-time employee in your employee application. Now, as you get this thing together, remember, we want to see basic SQL, like how Taylor's application was. So you want to kind of stay away from the data sources and use that type of application for your employee project. And that way, you're going to have the ultimate control over what happens, you know, in your application. As you're adding your full-time, this should not be new fields on your employee table. This should be a new table that is, you know, related to your employee table or has a one-to-one relationship with. But in your select statement, you will select both tables to get your data. So let me know if you have questions about that, which you probably will. So, okay.
Yeah, unrelated thing.
Hmm?
I'm wondering if you could do one more paper for me for the mobile thing.
Sure.
When it got brought up, you said a funny word. It started with a Z sound.
When what goes
For the
forward?
mobile development stuff.
Oh, Xamarin. It's an X,
Okay,
but it does sound like a Z, but it's XA.
could you
And-
humor me and just write it on this
Uh-huh.
post-it note?
Sure.
Because being able to just look at it will help it stick way better. It doesn't have to be with that pencil if it doesn't end up working. Beautiful, thank you.
That would be great.
Oh.